Hi, my viewers. Greetings to everyone. Today, I am going to share a topic that is on eco literature, a special reference to the poem written by William Bryant, A Forest Hymn. A poem, A Forest Hymn, written by William Cullen Bryant. So he is an American romantic poet, journalist, and he was an editor of New York Evening Post. He was born in November 3rd, 1794 in Massachusetts, US. And he was known as a poet of nature. He became one of the most significant poets in the early literary America and has been grouped among the fireside poets for his popular poetry. This poem has been published in 1824. It is one of the best nature poems of his age. It was written in the first person narrative style, a forest hymn. That the title itself refers that the poet's reverent attitude toward nature and the forest in particular. In this poem, the poet recalls the forest was the first sanctuary that every man used to praise the Creator. The word hymn indicates that the poet wants all the readers to consider the poem to be a song of praise. In the beginning of the poem, the narrator is walking in the woods and he was awestruck by the majesty and beauty of his surroundings. He begins soul searching and wonders if mankind has lost something by worshipping only within cathedrals and churches made by human hands. And he raised a question such as, why has man given up the act of worshipping God in a natural surrounding? So what is the reason? So that makes him ask this question. And also one more question raised in his mind, that have humans lost something by doing so? So inspired by that thought, he offers a prayer in the form of a hymn, as he titled. Here, the poet examines what it must be like to be God and creates such a stunning beauty in nature. Trees, mossy ground, better than the decorative elements of human pomp and pride in the churches of man. Music of the woodland cathedral is the wind and bird song, which is music no church can match. It is the beauty of nature that mankind witnesses in perfection of God. And he shared that the soul of the universe can be seen in a simple flower if one takes the time to look at it. If a person takes time to observe the lesson of nature, and that is an emanation of the indwelling life, it is a visible token of upholding love, as the poet points out in this poem, A Forest Hymn. That or the soul of this wide universe that is revealed through the power of nature, in the presence of nature. And at last, the narrator, humbled by the power and the majesty of nature, the lessons of birth, death, and renewal are all around him in the form of nature. These lessons are made evident by God. And the poet warns that ignoring the short time span man has on the earth by wasting it is the surest way to mock the gift of life that God has given to mankind. Holy man, who chose to live alone in the woods seem to live longer lives. The narrator states, there have been holy men who deemed it were not well to pass life thus, meaning people hold differing opinions regarding seclusion. He suggests that either extreme is unfavorable. The narrator assures the reader that one can enjoy God in both ways. People must make a point of returning to the forest on occasion to witness the power of nature, of God, to remember mankind's role as the caretaker on the earth or the protector of nature on earth. At the end, the narrator apologizes for mankind's pride that attempts to lessen God's power and might. He understands floods, illness, fires, terrible storms often remind man who is greater. He asks that God spare me and mine, nor let us need the wrath of the mad, unchained elements to teach who rules them. And at last, the poet prays that he and his family be allowed to worship the awesome power of nature and the awesome power of God within the shaded groves of the forest, and carry the lesson throughout their lives that one must show a kind of reverence and respect to the nature, to God who protects the human. And here in this poem, Bryant focuses on the pure communion that nature has with God. So the themes of the poem is divine. Themes of the poems are themes are divine in nature, man's morality, and the dual nature of both God and nature. These offered as proof of the pureness of the natural world and the corruption of man. This corruption is only redeemed by human being returned to nature. And he used images in this poem. That is one of the most prevalent images is that trees. So their majestic and soaring heights are used to represent the power of God and the small stature of man in comparison. And the next image is flowers. Flowers are considered as an art form within the poem. And the poet submits that taking the time to observe a flower allows a person to see the soul of the universe. And the next image is soil. It's an image that recurs with great frequency in this poem. From the foundation of the soil comes life, and without it, nothing grows or lives. And he insisted on that. These are the images. If you look at the rhyme scheme, he did not follow any rhyme here, so it is a blank verse. He employs enjambment to achieve the same mood and tone. A forest hymn is written using iambic pentameter. So at last, the narrator makes a promise to God that if God will spare his family from the terrible perils in the world, the narrator will not forget the lessons of the woods. He offers to return to the forest. When he cannot return to the forest, he will carry the lessons in his heart. And he promises to use the lessons of the forest to create a better life that is acceptable and in communion with God's plan. Thank you so much. So this poem, Bryant has written in 4 stanzas. And in the first stanza, he talks about how he walks in the wood and he was wondered with the majesty and the beauty of the surrounding of the forest. And the next stanza, in the stanza 2, the narrator examines at length what it must be like to be God and create such a stunning beauty in nature. In the third stanza, the narrator is humbled by the power and the majesty of nature. And in the fourth stanza, he talks about how holy men who chose to live alone in the woods seem to live longer lives. And the narrator states that and suggested that the extreme is unfavorable And he prays that he and his family be allowed to worship the awesome nature of God within the shaded groves of the forest, and carries that lesson throughout their lives. And here, so we have seen that what are the images he used: uh, tree, soil, and then so these are the images also he used. So with this one, let me conclude the interpretation of the poem for Skin by William Cullen Bryant. Thank you so much for watching Lit Ladybug channel. Thank you, everyone.